This whole CEO productivity debate has been all over the headlines, and it's a fascinating one for sure. On one hand, you have CEOs in Australia saying things like coffee breaks are a huge waste of time and efficiency. And then you have others in India who are actually suggesting extended work weeks, even talking about 70, 90-hour works weeks and working on Sundays. It's definitely causing some strong reactions from people. Plenty of commentary on are they just kind of dinosaurs clinging to these outdated ideas, or are they really being genuine and there is something more to their statements? So, are they villains or saints? Let's find out. Welcome to AGNA Advisory. I'm Girish Hebbani. Welcome to today's podcast, where we are exploring the ongoing productivity debate in workplaces, it appears, right across the globe. But here's a contrarian perspective. What if these CEOs, leaders with immense experience and intellect, are being misrepresented or misunderstood? Are we preaching to the converted, as they say? They have not reached these heights because of their good looks. Maybe the intention for these statements that leads to these intense debates is to change work culture and mindsets. It is great that these debates raise fundamental questions. What does productivity really mean? Are we focused on the right things? Today, we'll take a balanced view of the CEO intentions and explore actionable solutions. We will look at all the different factors at play, the hard systems factors, the soft people factors, and culture. Hopefully come to some conclusions and takeaways that can provide the underlying context. The aim is to find common ground, no matter where you stand on this whole debate. Let's dive in. Let's start with the coffee debate. Greg Keith, CEO of Grant Thornton in Australia, described coffee breaks as a huge waste of time and efficiency. It resonates with all of us because it touches on a very universal workplace ritual, the coffee break. I'm sure he takes some time off to have some coffee too. It's a situation many of us are familiar with. Greg's critique reflects a broader concern among leaders about how time is spent in the office. We would all agree, colleagues or employees leaving their desks for long breaks disrupt our workflow and productivity. It is not just coffee. There are smoke breaks, long lunches that everyone's pet peeve. There are these bad apple examples in every workplace. Even blind Freddy can see Greg is not wrong in saying time at work is valuable. At first glance, it sounds dismissive of employee well-being, but consider this. What if the real concern wasn't about coffee breaks, but the lack of individual accountability surrounding them? Leaders of all shapes and sizes have a beverage break or a hygiene break or stop to talk around the water cooler. They clearly understand that breaks are a necessity and foster teamwork. The real issue is ensuring that break time is voluntarily managed effectively without disrupting team outcomes. The key to create a workplace culture which values outcomes over micromanaging every minute. Think that this is an important point. It's about finding that balance, between giving employees the freedom to recharge, but also making sure that the work is getting done. CEOs also have access to all the same research that we have, and I'm sure completely understand that short breaks boost morale, productivity, and creativity. The real issue isn't break itself, but how organizations manage their culture. If employees are taking excessively long breaks, it's a symptom of a deeper disengagement. Leaders need to ask themselves, are we creating an environment where people feel invested in their work? So, as a solution, should companies regulate break times more strictly? Not necessarily. Instead of rigid regulation, companies should focus on fostering a results-oriented culture. For instance, in an employee steps away for a 20-minute break but meets deadlines and works effectively, break isn't a waste. It, however, requires systems. A result-oriented culture is more than policing behavior. Next, let's discuss the push for longer work weeks by leaders like Narayan Murthy and S.N. Subramanian. Their suggestions for a 70-90-hour work weeks may sound extreme, but let's not dismiss them outright. Their vision and planning horizon is much more long-term, over the next 10 to 15 years. They can see global competitive headwind that dictates how they compete globally with all other nations and companies in the competitive mix. Perhaps they are highlighting the urgency of higher productivity as an advantage in a competitive global economy. India is no longer a low-cost destination. The bottom line is that companies need to grow and be profitable. Without this, there is no company, no jobs, and therefore no question of work-life balance that we are all up in arms about. We tend to take jobs and salaries for life as granted. Unfortunately, there are many carcasses of companies and CEOs who did not look to the future. The reactions also reflect a persistent cultural narrative in only from certain industries where we compare lifestyle but not productivity across international boundaries. Japan is an example. We do not apply the same yardstick when it comes to our own soldiers, doctors, or firefighters. They too work unusually long hours in very difficult circumstances. Can you imagine a doctor walking away in midst of an operation of your loved one by saying, I need to stop as I need my work and life balance? Also, the media's portrayal often misses the broader context. These leaders who were not born yesterday are calling for smarter work, greater output, not simply longer hours. The real message is this. It isn't just about clocking more hours. It is about optimizing productivity or output per hour. It is about meeting or exceeding international benchmarks for productivity. So why do leaders keep making these statements? Are they just out of touch? Well, I don't think it's fair to say that they are out of touch, but they are more in touch with you for your brighter future. They're facing some very real challenges, staying competitive in a rapidly changing global economy. And I think they're also trying to instill a very strong work ethic. Life and work, as you say, is never meant to be easy. They know that the longer hours completely ignore decades of research showing that overwork leads to diminishing returns. After about 50 hours a week, productivity per hour starts to drop, and beyond 70 hours, burnout becomes inevitable. It's partly cultural and partly a misunderstanding. Leaders like Murthy and Subramanian strongly believe that extended work weeks will only install discipline and drive individual growth. That is their goal. Now, here's an interesting paradox. Many CEOs are stopping work from home and calling employees back to the office to improve collaboration. Yet some criticize time spent talking or socializing at work. So which is it, collaboration or wasted time? It's easy to see this is contradictory, but what if the intention was misinterpreted? What CEOs are trying to say that is collaboration should be purposeful and aligned with organizational goals. The real solution isn't about forcing employees into rigid office routines. It's about structuring collaboration to drive innovation while still focusing on results. The truth lies in how collaboration is structured. Bringing people together should foster meaningful exchanges and innovation. If done right, it's not about wasted time. It's about working better as a team while still holding people accountable for results. So how can companies reconcile these conflicting viewpoints? It comes down to focusing on outputs over optics. Leaders and employees need to shift their mindset from time spent in the office to value created in the office. For instance, if improved result is the goal, then encouraging informal, unstructured conversations becomes critical, even if they happen over a coffee break. What the CEOs are really addressing is low productivity, not the hours worked. Look at Japan's work style reform, for example. They've shifted away from this culture of long hours to one that prioritizes efficiency and innovation. They are using technology to streamline processes, encouraging flexible work arrangements, focusing on employee development. That could be a valuable model for others to benchmark. So, beyond the cultural and behavioral aspects, let's talk about the root causes of low productivity in organizations. Often, when productivity falters, the blame is placed on employee motivation or work ethic. However, The root causes usually stem from systemic issues within the organization. Let's break this down into key areas. For example, many businesses fail to clearly define what their customers value and pay for. If the organization isn't aligned with delivering that value, productivity becomes chaotic. Add to this the lack of role clarity, where employees don't know exactly what they're accountable for. Clarity does not mean having a job description, far from it. And then there's the issue of ineffective KPIs, metrics that don't measure actual output or connect to broader goals. These problems create inefficiencies that waste time and resources, and this ultimately results in low productivity. Let's talk about KPIs. Many organizations have them, but they don't seem to help much. Just having KPIs and metrics isn't enough. The problem lies in poorly designed metrics that don't translate to individual accountability or measure actual output. A good KPI should provide a clear line of sight and connect an employee's daily tasks to the broader organizational goals. Additionally, KPIs need to measure productivity effectively, output over time. If an employee is meeting their targets, they're productive. If not, it's a signal to dig deeper and identify the barriers and course correct. Monitoring progress is critical, but it needs to be constructive, not punitive. Many organizations set annual goals, but fail to have consistent monthly or quarterly dialogues about progress. This lack of feedback creates a gap between expectations and performance. Regular check-in helps managers identify issues early, celebrate small wins, and change goals as needed. Monitoring isn't about micromanagement, it's about enabling growth. Let's dig into benchmarking. Why is it so important? Benchmarks set a standard of excellence and give employees a clear target to aim for. What to benchmark and who to benchmark it against is an interesting topic on its own. Should it be the competitors or best practice in the industry? However, it's not enough to just set benchmarks. You need to analyze why the organization, team, or individual isn't meeting them. It's crucial to ask why. It's a skill gap, an excessive workload, or maybe the tools they're using aren't adequate. Performance improvement must be tailored. A generic training program often misses the mark. Personalized coaching, role-specific skill development, and targeted support are far more effective. Capacity is another critical factor. Without it, teams often become overburdened, leading to burnout and inefficiency. Capacity planning, capability, and competence building are key to productivity. Poor planning often leads to overworked teams and missed deadlines. To avoid this, organizations need to assess workload and skills at the individual level. For example, if a team is struggling, it might not be because of lack of effort. It could be lack of skills or proper tools. Training and better resource allocation can address these gaps and set the team up for success. Capacity planning is not just a buzzword these days. It's about ensuring you have the right people with the right skills at the right time, and they will produce the results that you require. To wrap up, let's look at a holistic framework for sustainable productivity. First, define what the customer values and align your whole organization around it. Second, clarify roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities. Third, compare this and set right the benchmarks at all levels. Fourth, set meaningful KPIs that measure real outputs against targets, not just hours spent on activities. Monitor progress regularly using feedback to adjust and improve. Focus on capability building and skill building for success. Lastly, provides targeted support for improvement. This approach creates a culture of trust, clarity, and results. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about building foundational systems that drive long-term results. So what is the bottom line here? Both situations highlight the need for a paradigm shift. Productivity isn't about micromanaging coffee breaks or extending work weeks indefinitely. It's about aligning organizational goals with human-centered practices and policies. Productivity isn't about controlling time. It's about creating value. Leaders need to focus on fostering environments where employees can thrive, innovate, and deliver results. That's the real secret to sustainable productivity. The future of work lies in creating clarity, empowering teams, and focusing on outcomes. When we prioritize these principles, everyone wins. Employees, leaders, and customers alike. Thank you for joining me today. We have covered a lot of ground, from coffee breaks to culture to capacity. We have explored different perspectives on productivity, balancing critiques of leaders' statements, intentions with actionable solutions. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. What challenges are you facing in your organization? Let's learn more and explore how new ideas or perspectives can help you overcome them. That is my balanced view to the productivity debate that benefits all sides. Thank you, and hooroo for now.